Our next speakers are Caroline Patertson and Heidi Groffen. Caroline owns conservation land on KI that provides habitat for EPBC listed species. She works for BirdLife Australia and volunteers with KI Eco Action. And Heidi started the Kangaroo Island Land for Wildlife in 2014, and they now have 25,000 hectares under membership, which is a fantastic result. The team strive to partner with and support private landholders and students in threatened species monitoring, threat reduction and habitat protection. And unfortunately, Caroline and Heidi could not be here in person, even though they were super keen, because there's a bit of a thing, you may have heard of it, it's called COVID, and there's a bit of self-isolation, which, a bit like you're on mute, is a bit of our sign of our times. So, please welcome Caroline and Heidi.
First of all, we'd like to acknowledge the Nurrunjeri, Rurrunjeri, Narungga and Kaurna people and their connection to Kangaroo Island, and pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging.
This evening we will take you on a Kangaroo Island private land conservation journey that has seen the two of us work together post-fire to engage landholders in effective threatened species monitoring for the protection of our island's habitats and wildlife. Next. KI Land for Wildlife started in 2018 and now supports 80 properties with over 160 landholders engaged across 25,000 hectares. Our program works closely with private landholders, the KI community and students to survey and monitor the 30 plus threatened species like the KI dunnart and echidna. Importantly, our monitoring helps to identify threats such as feral cat and pig presence, Phytophthora cinnamomi dieback and fire risks. With this, we can then plan for effective control and management across the 80 member properties in a strategic manner. Our conservation education program engages on-island and off-island students. We currently run a project that engages all 600 students from the 3 KI campuses, plus 10 mainland schools. Supporting KI landholders to increase their knowledge and skills in private land conservation is our goal. Building partnerships with other KI organisations like BirdLife Australia helps us achieve this. Next. The black summer fire's impacts on the KI dunnart and many other priority species has been huge. A big part of our role in recovery has been to survey and monitor critical habitats immediately after the fires so that we could prioritise threat reduction action. Such monitoring helped identify a population of southern emu wren taking refuge in a tiny unburnt patch. Our cameras also detected feral cats hunting in the area. BirdLife Australia and Dew, together with Zoos SA, translocated the wrens to the largest unburnt area known as the Northwest Conservation Alliance. This is a group of 10 privately owned member properties, and these wrens are still observed today during regular bird surveys. In partnership with member landholders, we've been monitoring over 130 sites post-fire with over 80,000 images caught on camera and analysed. Next. Here is an example of one of the tiny unburnt patches found that was providing refuge to a suite of threatened species. This image is from another jointly managed property known as the Western River Refuge. Within 24 hours of the bushfires, we detected dunnarts hiding out in this tiny patch along with the feral cat. Fortunately, our pre-fire planning for this particular property meant we could immediately partner with Australian Wildlife Conservancy and the property landholders, the Dove family, to build a 2-staged feral cat exclusion fence around the critically unburnt areas within. Next. This is another example of a strong partnership and how vital they are for conservation outcomes. Stage 1 saw a 13.6 hectare fence built around these small unburnt patches that was supporting the dunnart. Intensive feral cat control around the buffer zone had a positive impact for the species within. The stage 2 was 8.8 kilometre fence protecting 369 hectares. It was a massive job, but with the support of the Dove family, Australian Wildlife Conservancy, the Australian Defence Force, philanthropic organisations and donors, the property now supports a thriving population of dunnarts and many other threatened species. Next. Moving across the island is our Church Road Management Zone, a former KI Dunart hotspot pre-fire, the landholders are dedicated to conserving the properties, helping us every step of the way in camera monitoring, bird surveys, feral cat control and phytophthora management. This area was hit hard by the fires, no standing vegetation or leaf litter left. Little chance of KI Dunart surviving the fire, and with the added pressure of feral cat predation, we didn't hold out much hope. Amazingly, we detected them on cameras and immediately installed shelter tunnels both at this site and others to provide temporary shelter in the recovering landscape. The tunnels link vegetation patches and cameras help to monitor species utilisation. Thankfully, these tunnels work and we have protected most threatened species within this post-fire. Without landholder partnerships and volunteer support, none of this post-fire monitoring would have been possible. Next. The North West Conservation Alliance is 4,200 hectares that is unburnt across 20 properties. Half of these properties are burnt and half are not. With federal bushfire recovery funding, our team, alongside private landholders, have been monitoring, surveying and reducing threats across this landscape continuously post-fire. We've carried out invertebrate surveys thanks to Richard Glatz and have identified 30 species that could be potential KI Dunart prey. Threatened plant surveys have been achieved with Michelle Heidi. 20 fauna trap sites surveyed annually, 30 camera trap monitoring sites are maintained, seasonal bird surveys with BirdLife Australia, and we've also developed a comprehensive fire management plan to protect this critical refuge into the future. Next. The science side of our conservation work has meant we now have a better understanding of the southern brown bandicoot home ranges due to radio tracking projects, activity patterns of Dunarts and other threatened species through camera data analysis, feral cat densities within the area through the large camera trap array, feral pig control in partnership with PIRSA through funding from the Nature Foundation for Heritage Agreement Property Management, and cat stomach content analysis with 18 different species detected, 8% being the KI Dunart. Next. Our KI Land for Wildlife program can only continue if we have strong partnerships. I hope this presentation has shown you how we connect with landholders, the KI community, students and organisations like BirdLife Australia to kick some sound conservation goals. And I'll hand you over to Caroline. Next.
BirdLife Australia has been the voice for our country's birds for over 100 years. Kangaroo Island is a biological hotspot with extensive remnant vegetation and the absence of rabbits and foxes. It is important locally, nationally and globally for its biodiversity. In February 2020, BirdLife Australia partnered with National Parks and Wildlife SA to assess the extent of the Black Summer fires and began an intensive survey of 100 transects in the protected areas of the Western End. These were repeated every 2 months for over a year. Next. My role is the Community Engagement Officer, and with the help from BirdLife Kangaroo Island volunteers, we have set up 100 community survey sites on public lands in an effort to engage local and visiting birders to monitor the sites. These are on areas managed by both DEW and the KI Council, including important roadside reserves. 30 sites have already been uploaded onto the Bird Data app and are available for the public to survey. We avoided sensitive breeding areas and also areas with high risk. The funding for bushfire recovery is drying up, so we will rely on communities to collect valuable data that may be used to detect changes over time. This map shows the combined survey efforts post-fire, with blue circles surveyed in the last fortnight. Next. The Bird Data app is free to download and is an important tool to collect information from community and record significant sightings that sometimes get stuck in notebooks and bird lists. Surprisingly, there was very little baseline data on many of our birds from before the fires, so it's critical to continue surveys well into the future to learn more about their distribution and abundance. Next. A short video has been created to support bird data users and can be found on the BirdLife Australia website. Next. At the time of the Black Summer fires, there were 17 endemic subspecies on Kangaroo Island. Some of these lost more than 80% of their known habitat. including species that can't fly far through the landscape and now have fragmented populations. Next. And again. Next. Our brown-headed honeyeater. Next. White-eared honeyeater. Western whipbird. Next. And southern emu wren. Next. Are now recognised as endangered species, joining the high-profile glossy black cockatoo. Next. Next. Australian thornbills. Next. Little wattlebirds. Next. Shy heath wrens. Next. And crimson rosellas. Next. Are now listed as vulnerable. This sees more than half of our endemic subspecies recognised as threatened federally. Next. Next. KI has also been a stronghold population for other threatened birds, including the beautiful firetail, next, Bassian thrush, and even yellow-tailed black cockatoo, next. These have been identified as species of concern due to the extent of impact on their KI habitats, next. The importance of private land for conservation cannot be overstated. Grasslands, shelter belts, creek lines, gardens and remnant veg provide critical habitat and valuable corridors between fragmented patches. We're working with local farmers, conservation properties and ecotourism providers to set up standardised private surveys on their land. So far, we've engaged 24 properties. Over half of them are Land for Wildlife members and others just through conversations at the footy or community events. Next. We provide landholders with training in survey techniques and the Bird Data app and offer marker lists for installation at the start and finish points if required. Next. My family's property has been supported by Land for Wildlife for 4 years now as a place to educate school groups on survey techniques and through the mapping and treatment of Phytophthora cinnamomi. They provided us and other conservation properties with work after we lost our homes in the fires and tourism had come to a standstill. A number of threatened species have been recorded on camera on our property, and we still have old-growth sheoak woodlands and natural hollows on our land. The KI Glossy Black Recovery Project monitor our nests, ban chicks and provide sheoak seedlings for us to provide future feed sources. Next. BirdLife has created a Birds in Backyard poster to help children and visitors foster an interest in the birds they might see here. These are provided at tourist sites and accommodation for free thanks to the generosity of donors. Next. This year, we published a KI bird identification booklet highlighting 104 of the 265 bird species that may be detected in our survey sites and encouraging local and visiting birders to download the Bird Data app and make their birding count. Next. Next, at the heart of the community are our schools, and children are the custodians of the future. Next. We have created Birds of Our Island lesson plans. Case Penneshaw students have created mosaics of our endemic subspecies with support from local businesses and the Men's Shed. Next. These will be installed on the popular Penneshaw Sculpture Trail for the enjoyment and education of residents and visitors alike. Next.
Thank you to all our partners and the Revitalising Private Land Conservation team for providing us this opportunity to present to you this evening, and of course thank you to all of our funding partners and donors over the past couple of years. That's the end.